You know, I started this film review series with a musical. It was about already 4 to 5 years ago. I was a freshman at the time. It was 2016's La La Land. I remember I still used my Samsung tablet at the time, and I would just ramble on about the film for just the next 30 minutes. Now, I'm a soon-to-be college freshman rambling about a musical that came out 2 months ago. I could explain. In the Heights, directed by John M. Chu, is the Broadway musical adaptation that was originally planned to be released last summer, but just like every film that came out in 2020, was postponed indefinitely. As a matter of fact, it was postponed for over a damn year. But now, one summer later, we finally get to see Lin-Manuel's original musical masterpiece that's all about celebrating Latin American culture and exploring the Latin American working class experience in the Ciudad of Nueva York, or Washington Heights, whichever one you want to pick. I finally got to experience this film on Blu-ray and digital just a few weeks back, and watched it once or twice more just to refresh my mind a little bit. So without further ado, here is what I thought about this musical experience. You know, COVID forced us to cancel a lot of things last year. We were forced to cancel our big final parties, our big field trips, our proms, our graduations. But without a doubt, one of the biggest things I was forced to let go of was the final show I was supposed to perform in. Yeah, I used to be a theater kid. I know, shocker. And I still remember all the hype around at the time, especially because, well, the director of the show being Lin-Manuel Miranda, the guy who made Hamilton, which at the time I knew nothing about aside from the fact that he made Hamilton. So all my theater friends were just ungodly excited, constantly talking about the show, singing the songs, and I was just there not really understanding a fucking thing. And yes, at the time the movie was originally planned to be released, so all the trailers and hype was around it. I remember the time I had an internship with Warner Brothers, so I got a tour with them where all they talked about on their sets were the fact that they were making and planning for the release of In the Heights. But like everything else of last year, in just a span of 1 or 2 months, panic started growing, people started freaking out over the fears of the pandemic, parents started ordering the schools to be shut down, schools got shut down, the show got indefinitely postponed, and then just straight up canceled after people like me decided to drop out. Yeah, my classmates weren't happy. And to be honest, at the time especially when I was just so desperate to get the hell out of the house and look for work, and honestly more excited for things like The Mandalorian that was finally coming out later that winter, all the other shows that were still planning to be released, binge watching shows like Breaking Bad, Community, finally finishing Game of Thrones, that I really had forgotten about In the Heights. I really didn't care about anymore because, well, it was a show I never really got to do in the film I never really got to see. It was really of sheer luck that just about a month ago now at work, I remember scrolling through the menu during my lunch break on HBO Max, I see that In the Heights is finally out on digital. It had the premiere release, so my coworkers and I started talking about the fact that that was supposed to be the final show I was supposed to do my high school years, that I decided, fuck it, let's give it a watch. And I remember watching those first 10 minutes, the original intro that I had practiced so many months at school. And I gotta say it, I remember why I was so excited now to do that show in the first place. The first 10 minutes, you were instantly invested into this little neighborhood, this little world, this tiny little barrio, with all these strange and yet fun and lovable, funny characters, such as Usnavi, the orphan boy that has to take care of this bodega, to take care of his adopted grandmother, who dreams of going back home where his parents came from in the Caribbeans. Or other characters like Nina Rosario, the college girl that has come back to Washington Heights with the pressures of believing that she can't be the person that her father wants her to be. So many other incredible characters like Benny or Sonny, or Abuela Claudia, everyone with their unique qualities and their fascinating or even sometimes tragic backstories, and yet all told in an incredibly fun, catchy musical. And what is so extra impressive about this film is that the first 10 minutes, the world building and the exposition that you get in that very intro isn't done in exploring this crazy, magical, beautiful city. It's really done in a small corner of the town, in this little bodega that the main character Usnavi runs. And yet that little simple dirty bodega somehow becomes this incredibly magical and exciting Latin festival where we get to learn about all the characters in this town and what they're going through, what they're doing, what they're like, what are their dreams, what are their backstories like, where do they come from. All of this in 10 minutes while having an incredibly catchy and just incredibly fun song, and even an admittedly fun cameo of Lin-Manuel Miranda himself being the Piragua guy. We'll get back to him later throughout the movie. And director John M. Chu goes all the way in the cinematography department with this crew, bringing us some of the most exciting and beautiful visuals to have been seen on the screen all year. But what makes this film more surprising and really stand out compared to other films that came out this year alone is, like other films, for example, like Godzilla vs. Kong or The Suicide Squad, a film I finally got to see a few days ago. Those films are more fantasy-based, comic book films and kaiju films. So you expect there to be an out-of-this-world kind of style when it comes to its visuals. So you expect to be blown out of your mind. In the Heights, however, is a film based on a real city in New York, based in a real neighborhood with real people, in this world culture. So you don't really expect there to be magical, breathtaking kind of visuals, and yet the director and his crew manages to get insane and exciting visuals, like a festival-like experience from places like a community pool or the side of a building. And then we get into the characters of this film. Now, as someone that was supposed to perform one of the main leads in the original Broadway show, I already have a bit of a experience and a bit of knowledge of the characters in the Heights. So to see the film mostly 90% of the time pull off these characters successfully, it's what makes In the Heights one of my favorite films of the year, at least one of my favorite character films of this year. Films like Guardians of the Galaxy, or even Grease, another musical that I love so much, what makes them so lovable is that every single character, even at their worst moments, because they're not all perfect, including this film, we'll get to that, has their moment to shine. Everyone from the main character of Usnavi, to Vanessa, his love interest, to Nina Rosario, to Kevin Rosario, to Benny, to Abuela Claudia. Every single one of them explore their strengths, and even with other kids like Sonny, one of the younger kids, the teenager in this film and the story, exploring every single part of the generation of Latino culture, from the youth to the adults to the old. Those that are soon going to be taking on the adult role, those that are already taking care of the city and trying to take care of the barrio as much as they can, or even in pursuits of further dreams to make it better, or even straight up leave the barrio, like characters like Vanessa dream of so much, or even Usnavi, or characters like Abuela Claudia, or Kevin, ready to retire, and with the pressure and stress of making sure that their children are ready to be the adults and take care of their families and take care of their people. It's what makes In the Heights, to me, not just such a fascinating experience, but a deeply relatable one. However, In the Heights is not a perfect film. No film is. But I hate to say this, as much as I really do love this film, the film definitely has some major flaws in it. And it specifically comes in with the characters. The number one being the main lead himself, the actor who plays Usnavi. Now, do I still think the actor did a wonderful job? Yes, as a matter of fact, Usnavi's character manages to make me cry by the end, bringing one of the most emotional scenes by the very end of the movie. However, throughout really, especially the intro of the film and like the first 30 minutes of it, it's almost as if the actor who's playing Usnavi doesn't seem to really care or have that same kind of energy that I remember from watching the performances of Lin-Manuel Miranda when he played Usnavi back in the early 2000s. Just in general, this character feels so emotionless, so unexcited, and gives very late reactions to the most important stuff to be happening in this character's life. It's almost like, I almost have a suspicion that the take that they got in this film was maybe a practice take or a warm-up where he wasn't giving it his all. Because by the end of the film, you can clearly see in some of the most emotional scenes of the movie and some of the big moments for this character, he gives it all. He has an incredible performance by the end. But by the beginning, even when he's singing and doing the musical numbers, you don't really feel like he really gives a damn about the role. It looks like he doesn't give a shit. And it's so strange because I know the actor who plays Usnavi is actually a theater actor and actually, as a matter of fact, performed in one of Lin-Manuel Miranda's shows as one of the characters in Hamilton before. So he should really know more than anyone how to perfect one of these characters. But strangely, there seems to be really a lack of energy or a lack of character of what you expect from someone like Usnavi to be this passionate, very excited, hard-working character, and he just seems like a very average, very bored kind of a dude who just seems to be doing a 9-to-5 and doesn't really give a shit about anything. And there's also another thing that bothered me a lot throughout the film. I mentioned earlier what I love so much about the intro of In the Heights is how much it really does celebrate Latin culture just in the first 10 minutes of this film, with giving so many references and so much Easter eggs of Latin culture and our music, our food, our style, the way we talk, the way we dress, all kinds of ways. And throughout the film, it continues to do that with even giving little cameos. So, for example, one of my favorite musicians of all time, Ruben Blades. However, Lin-Manuel really loved the idea of him cameo in this film. Like, he took the Stan Lee cameo stuff of the Marvel films, I went all the way. Kind of like in Teen Titans Go to the Movies when Stan Lee went all the way. There are literal sequences in this film where the story just takes a backseat. The plot completely stops. Characters stop having their big character development just to watch Lin-Manuel Miranda have his big musical number as the Piragua guy, the cameo character that he performs as. And as much as I love Lin-Manuel Miranda as much as the next guy, and even as fun as it is to even see the guy who performed as George Washington in the Hamilton play be performing with Lin-Manuel again, it's just so strange and out of place that it really takes you out of the film of all of a sudden, especially through the middle act, of hearing all the pressure that these characters are going through, getting ready to deal with their future, not knowing what they want to do with their lives. And then all of a sudden you just hear a musical number of Lin-Manuel singing about how hot it is and how he can't sell Piragua. It's very odd, and it happens a lot. Sequences like that honestly bring down a lot of the experience for me, especially halfway throughout the film. But to say that I still didn't fall in love with this film and its characters would be dishonest of me. This film has honestly been one of the most exciting and beloved experiences I've had all year. And to be honest, from everything, from its incredible, stunning visuals, its incredibly just catchy and incredibly magical musical sequences, and its fun and loving characters, this film achieved everything that the musical originally was supposed to be. A love letter to Latin American history and culture, celebrating and exploring our rough and even tragic past while still celebrating it at the same time with everything that makes our culture so rich and fascinating, while still having the hopes of rising up for a better tomorrow, where we reach what we've been promised all these years, the American dream. And as a Latino myself, I can't help but just get excited and even emotional to some of the characters and what they go through in these stories. To see really someone I could deeply relate to, like the characters of Nina or even Benny with some of the friends that I've had in my life of being from other cultures themselves. A film like this is what not just every immigrant and every honestly American could enjoy and learn from, but every other Latino could really connect with. And that's what makes In the Heights for me one of the best films, let alone musicals, to come out this entire year. I'm going to give In the Heights an 8.5 out of 10. If it wasn't for those odd sequences, honestly, I could have easily forgiven the odd performance by Ustambi's main lead, but all those things together really bring it down too much for me, where I can't even give it a 9, where it's still an amazing experience. But to be honest, there's still so much to love and appreciate this film, and probably so much more that I haven't really fully paid attention to in the film yet that there is to love. I just discovered some of the extra cameos that were in this film just today. Guys, that was my review for In the Heights. I know it's a few months late, I know, and though it's usually tradition at this point for me to do reviews this late, this is especially a late one. But this was not a film I wanted to miss. This was not a film I did not want to give some attention to, especially to find out really the tragic news of its box office success or lack thereof. So I hope now that it's out on digital and Blu-ray, you guys get a chance and check it out. I know I'm definitely going to be adding it to my collection by the end of this year. Maybe even finally getting the soundtrack for my vinyl record collection. I have enough Beatles records for a lifetime. Guys, either way though, thank you so much for watching. What did you guys think of In the Heights? Did you guys get a chance to see it? Do you guys find the main character was not going to be just as weak as it was for me? Let me know in the comments below. I honestly would love to hear what you guys thought about this film. If not, please go check it out. New reviews coming all of August, this entire month. I just mentioned how we got to check out Suicide Squad just this weekend, so I'll finally be checking out that film very soon again, so I can give a review for you guys. New content coming all through fall and winter. A lot of big things happening to me. Either way, thank you all for watching, and have a lovely day. See you guys.